Hello, I'm Rick Cutter at Cloud for Utilities, and today we are in conversation with David Kenner, Senior Partner with Wipro Advisory Service. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you, Rick. Thank you for having me in today.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for your time. Well, let's start with a little bit about you and how you started in the technology industry.
Oh, sure. Well, thanks. Been in the space about 25 plus years. I started my career many years ago, actually in the telecom industry. Bell South, some people even know what that is back in the day with the in telecom, moved up through IBM, eventually moved on from IBM into other large systems integrators. I've built and ran large organizations for IBM, Fujitsu, Siemens, the Nielsen organization, Tata Consulting, and then much more recently with the Wipro Consulting organization.
Well, that sounds like an impressive career to help your friends at Wipro. I'm sure they're happy to have you. Tell us a little bit about Wipro and kind of what excites you about them these days.
Well, first off, most of our clients know Wipro as a very large systems integrator. We typically do a lot of our large integration application development work. We're a global firm. We deal with the Global 100, Fortune 500, whether it's in banking, whether it's in energy, whether it's utilities, consumer goods or products. We're typically taking care of the front office, the back office. Our clients know us traditionally as being that world-class system provider of technology. More and more over the past several years, Wipro has moved and made substantial investments back in our digital portfolio. And so today, when you look at Wipro versus where we were, I would say 5 years ago, we're quite a bit of a different company with a lot of the work that's going on in digital transformation and cloud transformation. And it's especially a new exciting time to be here with our new CEO, because especially myself, coming from the consulting and the advisory side of the house, he's put a lot more focus on customer intimacy, a lot more focus on customer outcomes, a lot more focus on really partnering and aligning our clients' business outcomes and goals with our own success. So I'm excited, and it's a great time to be with Wipro.
It sounds like it. That's all good things to hear. David, as I'm doing my research, I'm reading a lot about Wipro's digital operating model. I'd love to know more about that.
Sure. So as I mentioned, we've been making investments not only in our own internal portfolio for our client services, but also clients for several years now have been doing a lot of work in digital transformation. And they've been investing, whether it's in cloud, social, mobile, bringing in improved automation. And what they've learned and what we've continued to try to work with them on is that a digital transformation is just not about new investments in technology. You've got to be rethinking everything within the organization, top down. That includes the people, the process, the ways of working within the organization. And to really holistically bring that all together, you need to really rethink the operating model. How are you operating between the IT organization and the business organization? And we used to talk about business and IT alignment, but now it's more and more about business and IT integration. More and more clients are moving to away from project-oriented work, more to product and service-oriented orientations for their operating model. There's a lot of reasons for that. They want to be closer to their customers. They want to have less friction between themselves and their clients. And that digital operating model starts bringing this together much more holistically. New ways of working, the different, whether it's extended work or working remotely, as we are in the current pandemic, bringing in more resilience into the organization. The digital operating model is really the glue that brings that all together from a top to bottom perspective.
David, tell me more about some of the partnership ecosystem you guys have. I'm assuming you work with all of the major hyperscalers at Wipro.
We do. Again, as a systems integrator, as a digital native company, we certainly work with Amazon, we work with Microsoft, we work with Google, we work with ServiceNow. We try to be a partner to all of the major hyperscalers. Most of our clients today are looking at hybrid cloud solutions. So we've got to be able to bring them all together in a holistic solution. whether it's on-prem, whether it's in the cloud, whether it's private or public. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer for any client. So bringing that together today is not trivial. A lot of the consulting and advisory services that we focus on are really helping clients to not only move to the cloud, but also what's the right cloud provider, and also what's the right architecture, systems perspective. How do you wind up bringing in the right operating model and the right the end-to-end processes that will kind of tie that all together. So absolutely.
Fantastic. I know you guys have got lots of customers. Was just curious if there's any new customer initiatives you might want to share.
Well, obviously, I can't go into specifics around individual clients, but I can share with you a couple of large trends that we're continuing to see across, certainly in the utilities space and certainly in the energy sector, but it also comes across a lot of different industries. Certainly, there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions going on today. There's a lot of, I would say, inexpensive money in the market today that's forcing people to start looking at their operating model and adjacent opportunities quite a bit differently. We're heavily involved in helping some of our clients spin off parts of their business that they feel like might not be as profitable as where they want to go in the future. We're looking at companies that want to wind up doing major acquisitions. And so bringing that all together is a very complex process. I would say also the second big trend that we're seeing today, and again, part of this is the additional need for resilience, additional need for work from home or work remotely, is really that additional investment in modernization strategies and also really a more rapid migration to the cloud. We used to see 2 to 4 year journeys for cloud migration. I'm working with a number of CIOs, CDOs, CEOs that are really questioning the value of, do they need a data center, or how can they reduce the data center footprint? So I would say these are two of the big issues that my team is working on today with our clients.
What do you see happening with technology in the next 10 years or so? We got a lot going on the last few years. I mean, what do you see in the future?
Number of things that we're continuing to work with. Obviously, AI is a big issue, machine learning. We're working with a number of clients already today. AI ops is a big topic for the CIO today. How can I bring in more automation into the organization? As we look at end-to-end connectivity, end-to-end automation, especially when we're talking about remote sensors and IoT, how do we tie that all together? I think it's a great time to be in the IT industry. We're going through changes at such an accelerated pace that it's hard to keep up with them. But bringing them in, and I think part of these new technologies is really enabling us to really shift our focus away from the nuts and bolts, the engineering side of the house, and more focus a lot more on specific business outcomes. So bringing that together for me has been it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great journey, and I think that will continue for the next 8 to 10 years.
I think you're right on it. As our audience watches this video, if there's one thing you'd want them to take away about Wipro, what would that be?
I think too many of our clients today still think of Wipro as that systems integrator, world-class technology or systems integrator. And there's much more to Wipro than that. Yes, we do that. And that is our bread and butter business. But with our investments in digital transformation, with our investments in business consulting, I think that bringing business consulting, technology consulting, combined with our world-class delivery expertise, I think that's a win-win proposition for a lot of our clients. And I think we're seeing in our recent conversations with our clients, that's resonating with them, and it's been being received very well.
David, another question for you. I mean, how do you guys help a client with their cloud journey when they're just getting started, don't know what to do? What's your process?
Yeah, well, I think we essentially back up to what is it they're trying to accomplish? Is it just about cost takeout? Is it about bringing more innovation into the organization? Is it about changing their ways of working? So we've got to start with a couple of basic premises and a couple of basic questions around their goal. What's the business goal? We see too many clients that start down the path to the cloud They might hear that, hey, this is cool to do. Other CIOs are doing this. Let's move some of our workloads to the cloud. And then they get halfway down and it's like, okay, we're getting some business benefit out of this, but how do we really put together a more comprehensive roadmap? And how do we tie our IT roadmap to really what the business is trying to accomplish? That's typically where our Wipro consulting steps in. We help really go through the entire visioning, the IT strategy, align that to the 2 to 3 year business roadmap. We can help them build the business and financial model for what that's going to look like. How do you start moving more from a CapEx to an OpEx model? How do you bring your people up to speed, bring new skills into the organization, retrain them, repurpose them, and start looking at, as we discussed in other parts of our conversation, that digital operating model, when to bring in the right parts of the digital operating model into that cloud journey. So that's really where we see that the consulting organization really provided a lot of value, really from that end-to-end story, and help a CIO, help a CFO, not only communicate the IT strategy, but the business and financial strategy to bring it all together.
Are you finding companies less concerned about these technologies as getting rid of jobs and more about technology shift? What are you finding from their perception?
What we look at is how can we retrain those skill sets? We do a lot of work in the modernization area around mainframe migration to the cloud. These might be people who've been doing assembler, COBOL, VSAM skill sets. And some of them, if they're ready to retire, that's fine. They still want to learn some of these new skill sets. These are typically people that might have learned these skill sets, a couple of generations ago. But there's a lot of what we're finding, people that have those skill sets, and now they want to wind up learning Java. They might want to wind up learning how I do a engineering migration and how I start bringing in DevOps, into the organization. So we typically counsel, and we bring a lot of change management and organizational design into the cloud journey. How do we take your existing team, upskill them, bring in additional automation? And really, it's not about reducing staff. It's about making your current staff more productive and getting them up to speed to be able to work on some of the newer technologies. And most people I found really enjoy that. Now, is it a transition? Is it trivial work? Absolutely not. But it is a good, worthwhile investment back in staff and people that want to make that journey.
Yeah, I'm finding the same thing. I think the old days when you said outsourcing, everyone thinks job cuts, et cetera. And I think early days of cloud or SaaS, people felt the same. But I think we're beyond that now. So I'm glad to see you're finding the same.
No, absolutely. Outsourcing has got its place, but we much prefer to look at where we can partner with our clients, in-source where appropriate, nearshore where appropriate, outsource where appropriate. Clients today, when we look at a global footprint, they've got to be able to have that flexibility to be able to bring in the right skills, bring them in a timely manner, but also their existing staff that's been loyal to the organization, that understands the business side of the house, upskill them, retrain them, reinvest in them. And that's a model that we support, and we certainly do that with our own employees. So we would certainly encourage our clients to look at that also.
We've been in conversation with David Kenner from Wipro Advisory Services. David, really appreciate you being on with us today, and hope to see you in person before too long. We can talk more about some James Bond movies.
Rick, thank you much for your time. I enjoyed the conversation also. Thank you.
Our pleasure.